Welcome, AP historians. I'm going to do a very quick LEQ rubric recap, hopefully in less than 2 minutes. So let's get at this thing. So the first thing that we need to understand is that for the LEQ, there's only 6 points in play. 2 of those points, that's the damage that can be done in your intro. I would start with context here. Pew, 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 pew. Remember, context, you're just trying to connect to a broader concept that helps frame the content or the topic hidden within the prompt. So how does this fit the greater story? Make sure that you have a clear, broader idea, something that's important, not just some rando fact, but that you substantiate it. So instead of just saying like, well, the fall of Constantinople, the 1453 Ottoman conquest of Constantinople, right? Instead of saying the 95 Theses, maybe try to say Martin Luther's stinging criticism of the church in the 95 Theses, right? Try to pick things that have a little bit more depth. Don't say the ideas of Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Talk about the general will, something like that. Okay, then your thesis. The key thing there is just make sure that you're actually giving the answer that they're looking for and that your topics make sense, that they're fully developed. So if it asks for what extent, don't just say there was change, say there was significant change. If it wants to know causation, don't just say that things changed, say that this led to blank, or because this, then this, right? Make sure that you're providing the answer. For your topics, again, don't just say it was created by infrastructure. Infrastructure led to travel across the empire, right? Free market economics, what about them? Allowed more people to participate in the economy. Give the rationale. All right, down here to evidence. All right, unlike a DBQ, there's nothing to cite other than what you already know in your brain. So for 1 point, are you supporting the topic with relevant evidence? All right, so if it's asking, for harsh treatment of people during the Industrial Revolution, knowing that children worked in factories and that women didn't get paid a lot and that men couldn't vote or whatever, that's great. 2 points, you have to support an argument, and that's considered harsh or unfair treatment because although people were working and were earning a paycheck and were paying taxes, they didn't have a vote in the government that was taxing them. That's an argument, okay? So make sure that you're connecting your ideas back to the point. And then our last one is analysis and reasoning, where in a DBQ, these can be somewhat challenging, and in LEQ, they're not as bad. So for 1 point, you're using historical reasoning skills, so things like comparison or causation, change over time, or continuity to help frame the idea. So what was happening in England was significantly different than what was happening in the rest of Europe where there was serfdom, right? Or the way that the British treated the Chinese was different than the way that the British had treated the Indian population. Now I'm setting up a comparison, right? And so setting it up, framing it in that historical reasoning. Now for 2 points, you're demonstrating a complex understanding, right? Where you're actually kind of modifying the prompt, right? So there you might be talking about the subtle nuances of like the fact that England had ruled China or had tried to manipulate China, but in India, most of the interaction was under the administration of the British East India Company. That little nuance might help, right? Or if you're looking at similarities and differences. So, for example, if you had a question that was looking at, I don't know, the leadership styles of Louis XIV and Peter the Great, asking about Louis XIV, you could use Peter the Great as someone to compare him to, right? Or you could talk about, other absolute monarchs or other absolute leaders of the time, Alfonso in the Congo, right, could work. Or you could talk about, Frederick William I of Prussia, whatever works out that way. But then you're making sure that manipulates or modifies the prompt and the whole idea. And there's your LEQ. You'd be amazed, honestly, you don't need a ton. It just needs to be purposeful for what you're doing, right? So you should be asking yourself, why am I doing this? Or how could I get that point? And then tuck it in meaningfully. It's out of 6 points. The average score is usually something like a 2 out of 6. So it's not complete brilliance that you need, right? It's better than the average test taker. All right, guys, good luck.